Hello creative people, it's Sherry with Dragon Wagon Studio. Thank you for joining me in my bathroom again. So last week I redid a toilet seat for this bathroom I'm standing in. And I just thought, I made this really awesome toilet seat and now I still have this very bland, outdated bathroom. It's not going to coincide very well, especially since I went very dark. In this video, I am going to be resining the countertop so that it matches with the toilet seat. The first step in doing that is cleaning it, and cleaning with TSP is the best way you're going to get all your grease and grime off. So this is really good product. You get it at any paint store. I'm not sure if Walmart sells it or any of those kind of guys. Pretty sure you get it at the big orange store. Yeah, anyways. If all else fails, it's always available at paint stores. I'm going to get cleaning and getting all the grime off and any grease, because if you pour resin and there's still grease there, that's going to show through your resin and that's forever. So we don't want that. Okay, so I got that all scrubbed down with TSP. The great thing about TSP is you can let it sit there for a bit and it will dissolve all the grease. Another really great thing to use TSP for is if you have low cupboards that don't go all the way to the ceiling and you always get grease in your kitchen and dust collecting up there, spray that with TSP, easy wipe and done. So a little tip for you. But make sure you guys are getting in between the grouting really well if you have tile. I'm not sure what kind of tile you're doing. You can leave all the silicone caulking. We're going to be using a bonding primer. So make sure you get through all the grouting and in all these little cracks, all underneath, all in here. We are not removing the sink. The sink is staying. I am not doing that. That's time, that's money, that's a lot of work, and I ain't no plumber. So I'm going to leave that and we're going to go around it. And I'm going to show you how you do that. It's going to be easy. So the next step now is I'm going to make sure there's no film from the TSP left on there. So I'm going to take isopropanol and clean my surface and just get all that film from the TSP if there's any left off there. What are you doing in here? Well, you have to say hi now. This is Osiris and he lives in the bathroom. His residence is across the hall in the laundry room, but he usually hangs out in here. So he's hanging out with me while I'm cleaning this. Say hi, Benny. He keeps me very well entertained. Good with that. Done. So the next step now is I'm going to take my palm sander and I am going to round this edge here. You guys can't quite see. So the edge of this counter is very sharp. I'm going to round that off and make it a nice smooth finish there. So I'm going to take my palm sander and do that. And while I'm doing that, I'm also going to scuff up the countertop a little bit. And I'm going to do the tiles because I am covering the tiles and I am going to resin them. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to get my poly from the garage and get this area prepped and sanded. And then we'll go with the next step. So I just want to show you why I'm not taking the sink out. And that's because you don't have to. I'm simply just taping around the sink. And all you have to do is attach your plastic to it. So just make sure you're getting nice and tight here. I'm going to go in and make sure this is stuck really super good. So, yeah, I'm just going to finish that off and then we'll get on to the next step. Okay, so there's the sink. And all you have to do is just pull your plastic just to touch the tape. And now it's all sealed off and nice and easy. So, we are ready to get sanding. We're all sanded. And we're ready to put the bonding primer on. Shut that light off because those LEDs are incredibly bright. So we no longer have a 90 degree. That's been sanded down so we have a bit of a rounded edge. Everything's taped up. Just going to give it a wipe with isopropanol again and then we'll start putting our bonding primer on. Okay, so got that all sanded. Now I'm just going to clean it up. You definitely want to get your dust particles out, so Swiffer time. These are really great for that, especially since we have everything covered in plastic. So it gets rid of the dust really easy because the dust particles will stick to the Swiffer as long as you're using a new one and not an old one. So I'm just going to go lightly over my plastic. So we don't want any of that falling into our paint. And then I'm also going to go over again with isopropanol and make sure my surface is clean of all debris. And then we'll apply our bonding primer. All right. So let's just go with the checklist again. Our sink is protected and covered. Our mirror is protected and covered. So are our walls and our floor. Epoxy is going to drip off the counter, so make sure you got everything protected. We're also going to be using spray paint. That's why I use so much plastic up the walls. Spray paint gives off a lot of overspray, so if you're not protecting your walls, and it's going to be too late before you notice. Alright guys, it's time for bonding primer. Now, the bonding primer I'm using is concrete and masonry. That's because I had this already on hand. Ultimately, most primers are going to be fine for this project, especially if you're using ceramic tiles or a really hard finish. You'll probably want something that's going to adhere to those types of surfaces. This one's pretty industrial, so it will work in this application, and I have a ton of it, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. I'm not usually a fan of bare products, but this one in particular works really well. Let's go along here and let's get these edges real quick, especially on the granite and the silicone. You definitely want that. I'm going to brush in my corners and my edges, which is also called cutting in. Some paint lingo for you. Try not to stay near this camera. This bathroom is incredibly small. Let's brush in between the grouting and between the tiles. Just cover all your bases. And make sure you delint your roller. I already did. I forgot to do it on camera. My bad, guys. I'll show you again next step. So now I'm just going to roll this on and cover my countertop and the tile. There's no rocket science behind this, guys. We're going to be covering it up, so I didn't really brush in around the sink. Get in there. And it does bubble up because it is so liquidy, but I'll let it tack up a little bit, and then I'll go in again and just kind of smooth that out with my roller. And I gotta tell you guys, I do not have permission to do this. Maybe get an eviction notice. Okay, so now I'm just gonna go and smooth it out and make sure there are no bubblies or really noticeable lines. That's all there is to it for that. So we're gonna let that dry, and then we're gonna bust out some spray paint. And I have some textured spray paint we're gonna try, and we're gonna see how that looks. So I'm pretty pumped for it. Okay guys, it's been like 10 minutes. That's how fast this stuff dries. So now it's time to mask up and get on with the spray paint. So today I am going to be using this. It is a textured hammer paint. I'm using it in silver. It's supposed to make these little, I don't know, it's textured. We'll see what it looks like. I think it'll incorporate nice with my resin that I have going on with the toilet seat. Alright, I got my necessary components. So I am going to use this just to block some of the overspray. That way I'm not getting it back here on anything that I didn't cover in plastic. Alright guys, our spray paint is dry and I just want to show you the texture nice and close. So that's what that hammered spray paint looks like. It's kind of like galvanized steel. And in this area I laid it in pretty thick, so I think the thicker you go is the more texture you get. I know people have had problems with this paint before, so I think that is the trick. Is back here I didn't go in too hard and you don't see as much of that pattern. But yeah, I know I did on these end caps. So that's where you see more of the pattern. But yeah, anyways, that's gonna look pretty cool. Now we're gonna do our black resin next and mix in our marble colors. And I am super pumped for that because it's gonna be so fun. And before we get to that part, please subscribe to my videos. I'm trying to get my content out there and get my channel going. I'm doing this for a living, so I appreciate everybody helping me out. Also, let me know what you think of this video. Drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys. Would you guys do this in your home? What do you think of my technique? Let me know. Alright guys, this is what it looks like after we did the hammered silver spray paint. So everything is all cleaned up and ready to go for our resin pour. But this turned out really cool. Like, I'm really happy with it. Too bad I'm covering up this part, but yeah, like the texture is really neat. I'm really happy with it. So now it's time to get our resin on. So I have that in my vacuum chamber downstairs right now. I'll mix up my colors and then we're gonna get pouring. So I'm also gonna add more tape on the edges because we don't want to get resin on the wall. So today's gonna be the color pour, and then we'll do a clear coat after that. And then we're gonna call it a day and it's gonna be amazing.
Alright guys, it's time to pour the resin. Alright, so it's gonna be really hard to film this. There's no space, so I'm gonna do the best I can. So first of all, what you want to do is build a tape dam. We're going to take that off in 1 hour. I'm not doing the clear coat on this today, so I'm not taping the edges there. We're only doing the bottom pour. We're just doing our colors. So I got my whites, which is white mica powder and white spray paint mixed together. It's going to be one of the accent colors, or shades. Here is my copper. We're just matching the colors in my toilet seat video. So this is copper mica powder, actually it's bronze mica powder, mixed with the copper spray paint that I used. And this one is silver, and this one's just silver spray paint. There's no mica powder in this one. And then I got a ton of black. When figuring out the square footage for how much resin you need when you have a sink, the sink is not a circle. You need to find out the volume of an oval, but you're not figuring out the depth of the sink. You're going to figure out the depth of your resin that you're pouring. So we're pouring an 8-inch thick, which is 0.125 in decimal. So you find the volume of the surface of your sink, so length times width, and an inch thick with the pour resin. So once you find that out, you find the volume of your rectangle or square, which there's tons of resin calculators online you guys can use for that. That's super easy. The trickiest part is if you have an odd shape like an oval. So then once you figure out the volume, 1/8 inch thick, not volume of your countertop, surface you're pouring on, minus the surface of your sink, then you will know how much resin you actually need. I hope that makes sense, but there's tons of resin calculators online. I like Omni calculator, OMNI. They got calculators for everything on there. So, and we are gonna go in with the black. So the black, I did spray paint and mica powder because I wanted it thick. I didn't paint this black, I just left it silver, so I want to make sure I'm not getting that silver coming through it. Alright, let's get our black on there. I better like it, so I'm not going back now. That's how I didn't get approval for this. He knows I'm up to something, but I didn't tell him what. Okay. Let's bring it to the edge, which we want it there because I'll be pulling the tape off in an hour to get that to run over. So that is the black. There, that's better. Oh, we got a lot. Make little designs in there. Because there's the spray paint mixed in there, you're getting quite a few little designs. I'll get you guys a close-up when I'm done here. I'm going to pop some bubbles out of here now before I layer my colors. I'm getting guys on the close-up of that. That's kind of how it's turning out so far. Now we're going to do our coloring! Yay! I'm going to silver first. Sometimes silver becomes a little too much, so I'm going to do this and I need to cover it. Okay. A little corner in the cups. Yes. And the reason why I didn't tape this off is because paint is still curing for about 30 days. If you put tape on wet paint, you will peel the paint off. So just be careful. If you get something like that where I got the wall, just wipe it off right away, guys. Break it up a little bit, some black. Put your little veins in there, how you like them. Not rocket science. Use your feeling. You're creative people, use your gut. Hey, what's in the wall? No. Okay, well, I have two little boobies. There we go. Oh, I'm gonna get the heat gun and go in and get my bubbles again. I'll show you. Ooh, this looks cool. Alright, that's it. I'm going to leave it and cure it, and then in an hour we're going to pull our tape off. So 1 hour, pull the tape off. I forgot one thing. We got to pull this off right now. Majority of it. Not going to mess with the design too much. The design's going to keep changing until it dries anyway. Don't worry too much about that. That's why I buy dollar store tape. This stuff from Reno sucks. Brand name is not always the way, guys. Okay guys, this is what it looks like. These lights are in the way. But that is what everything is looking like now. So, not too bad. Home Reno under $100. Easy peasy. So we'll pull that tape 1 hour. Set an alarm and don't forget, if you're doing this at home, you'll be sad panda if you forget. And I will show you what happens when we do that. So save your extra resin, you might need it. And we'll be back in an hour.
Alright guys, it's time to pull the tape. It's been an hour. So don't really need nothing special for this. We did save our leftover resin in case we need to fill some gaps. So yeah, let's just go ahead and start pulling it. And pull it at an angle and pull down. About a 45er. Perfect. So now all that's going to start rolling over and creating a nice edge. I'm gonna take my leftover resin I have here, this one, the black, and I'm just gonna put a whole bunch, I'm just gonna go over it and kind of help it out. And that way I ensure I have no gaps. Ooh, that's a little much. Getting crazy. Getting crazy with it. And then that's gonna roll over nice and smooth. And we'll have a uniform finish. I should be wearing my mask, but I thought this would be nice and quick. It's been a busy day. Just make sure you get in the corner. Boop, boop. There we go. So all that excess color is gonna run over with that. You can already see the pattern coming down in some spots, so that's what it's gonna continue to do. So it's gonna look nice and natural as it does that. All right, got a couple of bubbles here, I see. Not too worried about the bubbles because it's at a vertical, so they should just pop out as the resin's moving. You always just go like that and clean that edge up. I did kind of glob it on quite thick there. Don't mess around. All right. If you want, you can use some of your other colors and go in it again, but I think I'm gonna leave it. I also have a problem here because there's tape on this edge here. I'm gonna pull that off now with a clean finger because that will get hardened in our resin. So that should flow perfectly without it. That can stay there, but that shouldn't incorporate into the wall at all. Gravity is going to keep that nice and flush for us. This one's going to be a little more awkward. So don't forget to pull those, or you'll have green tape in your resin forever. Or until you feel like sanding it off, or you learn to live with it. There, nice and flush. That's what we want. Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna let that cure overnight. Come back in tomorrow, do the top coat, and that's how we will cover up this. Or backsplash is the word I'm looking for. So now I have a huge mess to clean up. Hey guys, that's it for now. So we are ready to start our clear coat. So what I have done is taped off all around the tile again. Today we're going to do the vertical pour and we're going to do the tile. I'm going to show you how I roll that on. Once that's dry, then we'll do the last coat countertop. Now the reason being that I'm doing this first and not doing them at the same time is just in case we get a couple drips. I'm not going to be here all day to babysit it. I got some appointments, so if we end up with any drips, we can deal with that when we do this pour. So I am gonna mask up and get rolling. I gotta de-lint my roller. I didn't do that yet. See that from there? I think so. Just like so. Trick at the end. Make sure your tray's been wiped out of any dust particles. I'm also going to give this a little wipe too, just in case I attract in some more dust or pet hair. My pets shed a lot, so that's always a thing. Should be good. I had the door closed the whole time this was curing, but never know if the air vents. There's a little bit of dust that's accumulated just in 2 days. So I did not pour anything in here yesterday. All right, so I got my little tray here. I am gonna pour a little bit in there. My resin's been setting up for a couple minutes. So just to show you what I'm doing there, I'm gonna keep it on the floor though. Always make sure you got a wet wipe available. Just in case you make a mistake, you can clean it up quickly. Get your roller nice and goopy. I'm going to start at the back. And we're only doing this very lightly. It's just to keep the paint protected. Bathrooms get a lot of use.
I'll have to grab a brush. I forgot a brush. Don't worry about roller marks yet. We'll clean that up later. We're just trying to get it on there right now. I'll do a back roll after. And the resin will all settle anyway. If you're not comfortable with just one strip, do another one. If you think you're gonna accidentally hit the wall, go at your comfort level, guys. I've been rolling paint for many, many years, so if you don't think you're comfortable with just one strip, then throw another one on. It's no biggie. I mixed up 300 mils, but I don't think I'm going to use anywhere near that. But I needed some clear resin for a couple other projects anyway, so probably get away with 150 for a little bathroom like this. But just do your square footage calculators online if you really want the exact. Nobody wants to waste money. And resin is money. Alright, I'm just going to grab a brush because I forgot one. I'm just using a little old brush. I have some nicer, bigger ones, but I don't want to wreck those, so just use a junk brush. Dollar store brush or something. You just want to make sure you just get your top, your sides. That's why we got the tape there. And in between your grouting. Sometimes the roller skips that spot, so just make sure it's there. And your corners. Alright, and then make sure you do the bottom edge too. Which we'll really get with the next pour anyway, but just cover all your bases. It'll help you clean the drips off if you get any. Hopefully not, because nobody wants that. That is that. Now we'll go and we'll back roll. Make sure all our lines are nice. All your pressure is always at this end. So you're back rolling. You want your pressure to be the direction you're moving. And that'll ensure your lines are not showing. So the only line you should have is where this is. Where the most pressure is going to be. I don't know if you can see that, but that's where your line is. Shouldn't have any drips. Should be good here. Alright. So I'm going to back roll this back into there. And then come back. Alright. And that's all you got to do. And then we'll just continue that on. And with verticals, you don't really have to worry about bubbles. So I will not be torching this or using a heat gun at all. Different angles too. Get the light to hit it so that you'll be able to see your lines better. Sometimes the light will mess with you and you won't see something until it's dry. And then you're like, oh God. Okay. That's it. We're golden on that part. Now, we're going to pull that tape off right now. You don't want this resin sitting and getting in your tape, so let's get rid of that. I'm still leaving the bottom because we still have to do the counter pour and we can reuse that part, but this, not so much. Remember, at an angle. And try not to touch your tiles. Or your wall. I noticed I had a handprint from the other pour the other day here, and I'm like, oh no, there isn't on my wall. There. So I'm going to let that sit for 4 hours, and then we'll come back and we'll do this coat. And that's all there is to it. Easy. There's no drips happening. We got some resin on here, but that's okay. We're going to cover it with clear resin and you won't even see it. So don't have to worry about any of that. And this is like the easiest renovation I have ever done.
All right, final step, clear coat. So just a reminder, make sure you double tape your edge. We're gonna do the same thing we did before, and we're gonna let that sit for an hour or two, and then we'll peel it off. Just so we get this nice and coated. And as you will see, I did not take off my drips yet. I'm not doing that twice. We'll take it all off after a clear coat's done. So let's get pouring.
We don't need a lot, we're just doing a coat just to protect it. So I made up 2 cups, which is 500 mils. We don't need as much as we did last time. We're not laying any color. So that would be half less than I used with the color coat. So I believe I mixed up a liter. Alright, now I'm just going to get this all spread around. If you don't feel comfortable with doing this without taping your sink, then go ahead and tape it up. Just make sure you don't forget to pull it right away when you're done. You did all this beautiful work and then you forgot to pull your green tape out of your resin. I'm also going to use a heat gun for the bubbles just so I can push the resin around too and make sure it's nice and level. Use it self levels, but make sure you don't have any spots with major pooling like this corner. You can spread that around. You don't want any pocketings. Make sure you got your edges nice and covered. We've got a pocket up there, so just make sure we're filling those in. And you'll see them the most on the edges, around the sink, in your corners, in the seam here. Now I'm just going to give a wipe around my sink, just in case I did get some up there. I'm going to give it here, right there. Drop your finger in there and you can get in there better. Good. Well, looks great. Let's get some heat. I see a little dust speck in there. I gotta get my tweezers. Likely a bunny hair. Don't want that in there forever and ever. There. That's it, guys. We're done. We're done. It's that easy. So easy. Under $100. Okay, so 1 hour, peeling the tape off. We'll be back to do that and we'll see what this looks like when I have all this stuff taken up.
Alright guys, it is time to get our multi-tool out and take off all these drips. Our clear coat is done and this is the last step. We just got to get rid of all these little guys and that is it. And then I'll show you how everything turned out after the resin pour. But first we got to handle these and then we'll take a full glimpse of the final product. This is a multi-tool. This is the best tool ever. I use it for everything. I used it in my renovations when I gutted my RV. Especially since I did spray foam insulation in there. It was great for that. It's great for this kind of project. Getting in little corners just to trim stuff. It's great. If you don't have one of these, that's fine. You can always take a knife or a sander and sand that off. This is just a lot quicker, that's all. So I am wearing my glasses just for eye protection. I know it's not full eye protection, but it's something. So off we go. Should wear my mask. These glasses are not helping. I'm nearsighted. These are for distance, so it's not doing me any favors. Alright. It's getting our wet resin a little soft there, so I'm just going to get my sander and just smooth that out better, but all the big chunks are off and that's what we wanted, so that part's accomplished.
So I'm just going to put a piece of tape here in case there's slip. I don't want to sand off the clear coat on the wood because I know myself and I am clumsy. I got a little bit of bubbling on my edge because I didn't set a timer. And I forgot to pull my tape within an hour that I've been screaming at you guys about. And it turned out to be 4 hours, so had a little bit of a, I don't know, I'll have to fix later. Anyway, that's that, guys. So let me clean this up and then we'll see the final product. All right, friends, here we are. That is the new sink. Under $100. Complete Reno. Went from ugly to gorgeous. I just increased the volume of my home. I gotta get my realtor in here, but he's told me resin countertops about $5,000 to $10,000 increase in value in your home when you do something like this. So you can do this incredibly cheap and yeah, get a good value out of it. So that concludes the countertop. Part 1 was the toilet, and now we got part 2. So yeah, a little spray paint, a little resin, and you get all these beautiful textures. So let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you really enjoyed this video and you got a lot of knowledge out of it. Thanks for watching. Stay creative, people. I'll see you in the next one.